Hello and welcome to Learning Excel 2016. This is the 7th video from Chapter 3. My name is Mike Henry, and today we're going to take a look at dates. We're going to look at a whole bunch of different functions. The date function, we'll see now and today, then we're going to see another group of them, today, month, and year. We'll look at work days and work week, and then we'll really get into being able to count some days here. Today is the 28th day of January 2017. You can see today's date is right there. Up here on the formula bar, take a look and you can see that that's a hand typed in date. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking a look at time here and how the computer can help us measure time and also figure out time and dates. So right here we're going to use a function called today. So like all good functions, we put our equal in here and we start with the function today. You can see as I start typing that in, that's the only function I can put in. And I hit the tab key. That puts in the rest of that. And you can see in below here, it shows us that this function is going to be today, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So I close my parenthesis. That's a requirement that all functions have an opening and closing parenthesis. In this case, there's no arguments in there because all I'm going to get is today. And you can see that it is put in today's date, but it's pulling this from the computer's calendar chip. So tomorrow, if we were to open this up, it would say 1/29. And if you waited a while, it would open to the date that you reopen this file on. So this always gives you what the current date is versus this will not change. We open that in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, it's still going to say 1/28/2017. Now we have another function here called now. The now function goes one step beyond figuring out the date. So I put equal here and I put in now, and you can see that that function comes up and it says I'm going to return the date and the time. So I hit my tab. Just like today, you can see an opening and closing parenthesis. Now the big difference here is you can see that there's the date and then there's the time. Now this is showing time in military time or a 24-hour clock. So if I were to do this at 10 o'clock tonight, if it was 10:46, it would say 22:46. So there's no AM and PM here. It's just giving me my indicator. And again, you can see that that's now. This is really good if you're going to be measuring time along with date. If you have very important contracts or events happening, you might have them time-stamped. And this is a timestamp here saying that this was done at 10:46. So you have that time element there. Now here we have a couple of unique functions that we can play with. We have a date that's right here. And I have the date, and that's really important to me, but I would like to just know what day it is. I don't want to know the rest of the date. I just need to know the day. And this might be used for some comparison type query. So what I can do is I can use a function called day, and what this day function is going to allow me to do is it's going to return the day of the month based on a particular date. So I put in my open parenthesis. I'll put in the date that I want to know about, and I close the parenthesis, and you can see right here it returns to me just the 28 because this is the 28th day of the month. You're going, I think I got this one figured out, because this will do the same thing for month. So I put in here month and I open my parenthesis. I do the same thing. I put my B1, close that, and you can see that this tells me it's January. So if I had a large list of dates and I wanted to pull out just the ones that are in January, I'd have a hard time doing that. But what I could do is create another column, pull out just the months, and then say show me only the months that equal a certain number, and now I would see just the Januaries. So this is where those functions get used. Here we would do year, year, and as soon as I type that in, you know that as soon as I put this in, it better show me 2017. So you can see I can break a date up into pieces and parts and components. So I could say show me all the invoices that are for the year 2016. So I can figure those things out real quickly and easily by breaking up the date into certain parts. Now here I have the parts. You can see here's the year, the month, and the day, and you go, well, I'd like to have that reassembled. I'd like to have that as one date. So what we can do is we can do equal date, and when I put equal date here, it asks me for the components, and you can see here it says show me the year, the month, and the day. So I click here for the year, and I do this, and for the month I'm going to put this one, and for the day I put here, and now you can see when I close this, it reassembles a date for me. So this is really good. I can take dates, I can separate them, or if I have separated dates for some reason, I can reassemble them. Some databases will store the dates in 3 different fields, one for the year, one for the day, and one for the month. You may have even filled out a form in some database website that you've gone to where it had you put in all 3 parts separately. That was really meaning they were putting it into 3 different components, so Excel would reassemble that date for you. So what we're going to look at now is understanding how to measure the time between 2 dates, or if you know how much time you want to put out there and you know what the starting date is, when would the end be? So we're just doing some date management, date math here. So when we look at what we're looking at on this sheet, we have a project that's going to start on January 17th. It's going to end on May 11th. So we've got this project that we want to do. We know that it should take us 76 days to do this work. Okay? And then down here you see some dates. These are dates that people are not going to be able to work. They're either vacation days or for some reason we can't do work on those days. So as we look at this, we're going to look at a couple different things. The first thing is January 17th, unless I had a calendar right in front of me, I don't know what day of the week that is. I don't know when we're starting. So by using weekday, and you'll see I can do equal, start typing week in there, I get weekday. This lets me pick a date, serial number, meaning the date here. It lets me pick a date, and I can see that that gives me a weekday of a 3. Now I know from looking at my little chart over here that that's a Tuesday. We start at the beginning of the week on a Sunday with the number 1 and work our way through. You've already seen the video on how to do a quick VLOOKUP. You could do a quick VLOOKUP and pop and make that Tuesday. By grabbing this and just pulling this down, I can see that May 11th is going to be a 5, which is a Thursday. So it gives me the ability to quickly understand what weekday I'm looking at. Now here, I know I'm starting on this date. I know I have 76 days that I am requiring of work. I would like to know how many, using those as just work days, not calendar days, what would be the date that I'm finishing on. Okay, so I'm using just work days. All right. So here I type in here and I go start typing in work, and you can see work days appear, and I come here and it says first thing I'm looking for is the start date. Well, we know we're starting on January 17th. And it says how many days do you expect to be using for work days? I expect to use 76. Now it says holidays over here are in brackets. That means it's not required. I can just close this down and you go, oh my God, how's that a date? Is that like April 28th of 58? What 58? So that's not a date. You can see up here it's just a number. If we turn this into a short date, you can see that that's actually May 3rd. So according to this, we're going to finish before our hopeful end date of May 11th. Okay, and you go, well, wait a minute. There's some days that people can't work here. And you go, okay, let's take an account for that. So you can see I do the same thing as I did before. I do work day, and I do the same start date, and I'll put in a comma. Still the same projected number of days, but here's where I use this other function called holidays. All right. This set of dates here are the dates that I am not going to be working, so I can close that out. And now you can see my projected end date is May 11th, which is where I was hoping to end. So as long as nothing goes wrong for the entire time, I'm going to be good to go. And you go, well, that's work days. How many days is that in total? Okay. We can figure that out by doing just basic date math. I have two dates here. We know that they're basically numbers, so I can take the larger date right there, subtract away the smaller date, and there's 114 days. So of the 114 days to get me to May 11th, 76 of those days are working days. All the rest of them make up holidays or Saturdays and Sundays where you're not planning to work. Okay? So this is one way to look at it, and this is if you know the starting date and you know how many days the project's going to take. Well, here's the deal. The project went long. The project went long. As a matter of fact, here's the end date for the project. It ended on May 29th. So the project went over. And we now need to know how many work days did we use. Okay, so that's where this net workday piece comes in. So if you see here, I type in net, it gives me net work days, and I hit enter. Now this is asking me for a start date. We started on January 17th. It asks me for an end date. We know that we end it right here on May 29th. And it does ask for the holiday thing. I'm going to close it off. And we know that there was a net work day of 95. We know there was 95 work days in there. But you go, that didn't take an account for these non-working days. So to take an account for those, you can see I'll do net work day again. Same thing with the start date and the end date right here. Now the difference is this time is I block in my holidays, and when I close that off, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holidays. I should see that number be 6 less than 95, and look at that, I get 89. So you can see that this is the net work days removing holidays. This is the holidays still counting in there. So in this chapter, we looked at a lot of different things about dates. We learned how we can take a date and use that date to break it up into parts and components of the day, the month, and the year. We learned how to have the computer give us the date and the time if we needed to. And then we looked at a little bit of from a project management point of view. If I know how many days I need to work and I need to count how many days there was work done, there's different things. We're going to look at dates a little bit more in a few of the chapters ahead. We'll see a few other date combinations, but now you have an idea of some of the things you can do with dates.